This is now Lithuania, on the way to its capital, Vilnius. Lithuania is a country in the Baltic region of northeastern Europe. This is one of three Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. We'll be starting with the southern of the three countries and then proceed northwards.
Just a minute, I'll slip something on.
The Baltic states are also known as the Baltic countries, Baltic republics, Baltic nations, or simply the Baltics. However, they are not used in the context of cultural areas, national identity, or language. They just cooperate on a regional level in intergovernmental organizations. They are all members of the European Union, NATO, and the Eurozone. They're classified as high-income economies by the World Bank. The Kingdom of Lithuania was created in 1253. During the 14th century, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was the largest country in Europe. The official language, Lithuanian, along with Latvian, is one of the only two living languages in the Baltic branch of the Indo-European language family. In the midst of the Second World War, Lithuania was first occupied by the Soviet Union and then by Nazi Germany. By the end of World War II, when the Germans retreated, the Soviet Union reoccupied Lithuania. In 1990, before the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Lithuania became the first Baltic state to declare itself independent after 50 years of Soviet occupation. We're now in our hotel in Vilnius, which was both pleasant and relaxing. It was the type of hotel which was interesting because of its interior and a stress reliever because of the neighborhood it was in.
That's right, honey.
We'll be having dinner here, one of the few nights in the trip where dinner was included. We'll also get to know more about our companions. A number below 20 instead of the bus maximum of 40 is the ideal number to take a tour with. It's just the right size for a tour director to manage and for the colleagues to manage themselves. This is the opportunity to talk to fellow travelers about traveling. Their thoughts about past travels, the present trip, and future plans. Conversations can help tremendously on gaining more understanding, correcting misconceptions, or reducing expectations about different places.
I want to greet you in my town. My name is Irena. I'll be the guide for tour just around Vilnius. And afternoon we go to Trakai, 27 kilometers from here. 1,000 years ago, the name Lithuania, in Latin it sounds Litua, was mentioned first time in chronicles. German and Russian chronicles wrote about Litua, and practically we start counting years for my country since 1009. And in 2009 we celebrated millennium, 1,000 years. We say in Lithuanian Lietuva, and it comes from the Lithuanian word lietus, which means rain. Welcome to the rainy country. We pray every day, we pray not to have rain. 200 rainy days per year.
Vilnius is known for the architecture in its old town. It was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. Before World War II, Vilnius was one of the largest Jewish centers in Europe. Its growth was due in part to the establishment of the now Vilnius University in 1579. The university developed into one of the most important scientific and cultural centers of the region. Vilnius University now has 3 bachelor and 16 master's study programs in English. The original 16th century green bridge was the oldest bridge in Vilnius. The first bridge dated from 1536. The present-day bridge was completed in 1952.
What is written, you read. On one side, I love you. On the opposite side, I love you too. You know, all people like it and we demand to have this surprise every year. And one more surprise, to the right, you'll see closest to the road, to the bus, rusty brown pipe. In 2010, Vilnius was European Cultural Center. This sculpture came from one country and they ordered us to call this sculpture modern art. We call it sewage pipe and that's all. We don't. Building, we call it Soviet Monster. The building former sports and entertainment center. We don't like to use it or try to keep it.
Coming up is a problem with package tours that comes up once in a while, which is the inability of looking at a place which you came to see and not having the time to wait for its availability. This is the St. Peter and Paul Church that we came off the bus to see but did not see since services was ongoing. It has an all-white interior and has a masterful composition of some 2,000 stucco figures. The gate was built in the 16th century as part of the defensive fortification for the city of Vilnius, the capital of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Of 10 city gates, only the Gate of Dawn remains, while the others were destroyed by the order of the government at the end of the 18th century. Amber, which is plentiful in all Baltic states, is cheapest here in Lithuania. The old town of Vilnius is one of the largest surviving medieval old towns in Northern Europe. It has developed over the course of many centuries and has been shaped by the city's history and a constantly changing cultural influence. It is a place where some of Europe's greatest architectural styles, Gothic, Renaissance or Renaissance, Baroque, and Neoclassical, stand side by side and complement each other. The old town was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. Its Jewish influence had led it to being described as the Jerusalem of Lithuania. There are 65 churches in Vilnius. Like most medieval towns, Vilnius was developed around its town hall. Vilnius is the major economic center of Lithuania. The GDP per capita in Vilnius is about 20,000 euros, making it the wealthiest region in Lithuania. This is the Church of Saint Casimir. Under Russia's occupation, the church was converted into a Russian Orthodox church. During the Second World War, the church was closed and in 1963 converted into a museum of atheism. The church was reconsecrated in 1991. In 1915, Vilnius was occupied by the Germans and the church was converted into Evangelical Lutheran. This is the Vilnius Town Hall. This former Gothic-style building has since been reconstructed many times. The current Vilnius Town Hall was rebuilt in neoclassical style.
Look to the left, you can see the piece of wall, the gate of dawn, and the old town behind. If you come to Vilnius in the 16th century, you have to pay for entrance. Just here the gate of dawn, and not with money, to pay with stones, like building material, the material for roads. And usually people have two stones in the pocket, one to pay with, another, like the gun. Who knows who waits for you in this town?
This is the Church of the Ascension of the Lord. This is an old church which is currently closed. Also known as the Church of the Missionaries, it is a part of a former monastic complex established by French missionaries started in 1695. It was closed during the Tsarist and Soviet periods and was used variously as a war hospital, an institute for young ladies of noble families, and an insane asylum. Adam Mickiewicz was a Polish poet. He is regarded as the national poet of Poland, Lithuania, and Belarus. The first church at this site, constructed of wood, was built for Anna, the Grand Duchess of Lithuania. Originally intended for the use of Catholic Germans and other visiting Catholics, it was destroyed by a fire in 1419. The present brick church was constructed on the initiative of the King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania, Alexander Jagiellon. It is one of the most interesting examples of Gothic architecture in Lithuania. The interior is decorated in the Baroque style, as is its altar. In contrast with the all-brick walls around the entire church, the interior of the church is filled with delicately carved wooden furniture which provide an attractive combination. The interior walls can do so much with finishing touches. However, in spite of this, as a medium-sized church, this church can be considered one of the most finely built and attractive churches that we've seen. St. Anne's Church, which has survived to the present day without changing for over 500 years, has become a symbol of Vilnius. The main facade, which is its most striking feature, is designed in the flamboyant Gothic style. The Gothic arches are framed by rectangular elements, dominating a symmetrical and proportionate facade, creating an impression of dynamism. This is in front of the church. The old town itself lies to the west of the St. Anne Church, the St. Francis Church, and the St. Michael Church. It includes many other elaborate churches with Baroque style from the 1600s to the 1700s. The old town of Vilnius, which is one of the largest surviving medieval old towns in Northern Europe, has an area of about 3.5 square kilometers. The facade of the Vilnius Cathedral and the Vilnius Town Hall bears a striking resemblance with each other. Both has 6 Ionic columns. The only difference is the coat of arms at the portico of the Town Hall and saints on the cathedral. From 1939 to 1991, for 52 years, Lithuania was considered a republic under the Soviet Union. Many saw the integration as a farce and called it a military takeover. 3.5 years after the People Power Revolution at EDSA, the People Power Revolution at the Baltics took place. The Stibukla style marks the southern terminus of an estimated 2 million person chain linking the Baltic states through their capitals, Vilnius, Riga, and Tallinn. The human chain was formed in 1989 as a political protest against Soviet occupation and stretched 650 kilometers from this spot to Tallinn. Today, the tile is a symbol of hope and inspiration, encouraging people to believe in miracles and remember those they have experienced and may yet still experience. The Singing Revolution is a commonly used name for events between 1987 and 91 that led to the restoration of the independence of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. This is the Lithuanian Presidential Palace. After the independence in 1918, the palace housed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It was gradually adopted for use as a presidential office and since 1997 served as the official office of the president.
In Lithuanian and Polish schools, we had to study, to learn the Russian language, history, literature, as they do in their Russian schools. They, in Russian schools, ignored the Lithuanian language. You remember this phrase, speak normal language. And they had the lesson on Lithuanian only once in a week.
Lithuania's economic growth, which had been attributed to the Vilnius University developing into one of the most important scientific and cultural centers of the region, is truly commendable since, in spite of its turbulent history, it was brains rather than brawn which propelled their country into the success it is today. As of 2016, the personal income tax is 15%, which is among the lowest in the EU. Lithuanian median adult wealth is about $11,000. As of 2017, the average net salary in Lithuania is about 660 euros, while average pre-tax pension is about 280 euros.
Okay, what to say? We'll see you back.
So in the meantime, we have authentic Lithuanian food in one of the restaurants for lunch.
KGB for us means that.
Traki is a historic city and lake resort in Lithuania. It lies 28 kilometers west of Vilnius. Traki is a town built on water. The town is surrounded by lakes. Festivals and concerts take place in the island castle in summer. The first settlements in this area appeared as early as the first millennium. The town, as well as its surroundings, started developing in the 13th century. Traki became a political and an administrative center of the duchy, sometimes named a de facto capital of Lithuania. When the Polish Defensive War started, the area was annexed by the Soviet Union, then by Nazi Germany during Operation Barbarossa. Operation Barbarossa was the code name for the invasion of the Soviet Union during World War II by Nazi Germany to conquer the Western Soviet Union so that it could be repopulated by Germans. The reconstruction of the island castle suffered a setback when the Soviet First Secretary declared that reconstruction of the castle would be a sign of glorification of Lithuania's feudal past. Today, the island castle serves as a main tourist attraction, hosting various cultural events such as operas and concerts. There are several different modes of transportation that you can take to get to Traki, including a tourist bus from Central Square or the Town Hall of Vilnius. Upon arrival at the town of Traki, you'll have the option of taking a taxi from the train or bus station or walk through the town or along the water to Traki Island Castle. The Traki Island Castle was built in the Gothic and Romanesque styles in the 15th century for defense purposes. It was frequently used by the Grand Duke until the 16th century. The castle is built of red bricks and now contains a museum that showcases jewelry, ceramics, glassworks, and other odds and ends from the time period. However, some of the displays aren't clearly explained in regards to what the collection has to do with the history of the castle or the people who live there. It's just odds and ends of artifacts, and there is definitely room for improvement in the museum displays. This had been due to the number of times political power had changed hands and the number of times the castle had been destroyed and rebuilt. Traki was restored and reconstructed by Lithuanians, Poles, Russians, and Germans in the last century. The same nations that have been contesting this land during its long history. Nevertheless, it's still a delightful place to visit and explore the various remnants of the history of the country. The lakes at Traki is available for swimming, water biking, and boating. Many concerts and events are organized in this place. The Traki Medieval Festival attracts many enthusiasts. Medieval music, dance, and demonstrative dueling with swords and shields, as well as long swords, are part of their program. Along the shore, many restaurants can be found that serve the national Tatar dishes. If other countries have theme parks or amusement parks, smaller, older countries like Lithuania have the Traki Island Castle. This is not exclusive to Traki. In Slovenia, we've visited the castle, which had been refurbished and commercialized to offer tourists both as a park and a museum at the same time. England, Scotland, and other bigger European countries have done the same, and the amount of commercialization versus maintenance of its original medieval essence varies. The Ljubljana Castle in Slovenia can be comparable as an attraction to the Traki Island Castle at Lithuania. The memorable attraction in Slovenia would be the mechanical drummer at the entrance and the view from its tower. A castle is the private fortified residence of a lord or noble. This is distinct from a palace, which is not fortified, or from a fortress, which was not always a residence for royalty or nobility. However, the most notable of all the castles for me is the Windsor Castle in England, one of the homes of the British monarchy. It's the most attractive and inspiring because it's being lived in. It has both maintained its age and kept up to date at the same time. It has such good taste, it would be nice to be able to see also the inside of the Buckingham Palace if given the chance. Windsor Castle was built in the 11th century after the Norman invasion of England by William the Conqueror. Since the time of Henry I, it has been used by the reigning monarch and is the longest occupied palace in Europe. Henry I was King of England from the year 1100 to his death. Home to over 39 monarchs, Windsor Castle has seen the taste and decor that vary hugely over the centuries. Windsor Castle is often visited on a half-day tour from London or on a full-day tour that also stops at other places. When the Queen is in residence, the changing of the guards can be seen. We had no expectations before our trip to Lithuania, but it had been an enlightening one to say the least. Lithuania was the first Soviet republic to announce its cessation from the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union imposed an economic blockade on Lithuania, but Lithuania did not renounce the Declaration of Independence. Its turbulent history and its recovery had been no less than admirable, attested to with the strong economic status of the country. The GDP per capita in Lithuania is 70% above the world's average. Lithuania has the largest economy among the 3 Baltic states. It belongs to the group of very high human development countries, meaning the lifespan is higher, the education level is higher, and the GDP per capita is higher. Lithuania's economy and fiscal position is growing strongly. One problem is the demographics. The population is declining in Lithuania, and the population is becoming older. Over 15% of Lithuania's population has left the country since it joined the European Union in 2004. Most of the immigrants are young, skilled, and well-educated. Immigration is perceived as a threat to the identity of the nation. Children of immigrants often forget the Lithuanian language. Some even envision a scenario of the extinction of the Lithuanian language and nation over the next 100 years. But still, the biggest concern for some is that Russia will want to occupy Lithuania again.